Aloha! What's up, everybody? I'm JayDreamerZ. Welcome to today's episode. Hopefully, everyone's found a way to find the live stream. I'm having some technical difficulties with my computer program. I had to reinstall Streamlabs, which is what I've been using for some time now. But hopefully, everybody's going to catch up to the program. Today, we're continuing our talk about strange, secret government operations, projects, weird government projects and whatnot. And today we're going to be going over Project Horizon. I'm particularly interested in the moon lately, what they're doing, what their real plans are with the quote-unquote moon, what all of the shenanigans are about landing on it, blowing it up, and otherwise. And I incorporate a lot of that into my own cosmology, my own cosmological view. And today we're going to check out an early moon project. This project was actually had Wernher von Braun as an informant on this project. Wernher von Braun helped to make this project to try to make it come to life. Now, this is at the exact same time that they were deciding between a moon landing and blowing up the moon. If you recall, we were talking about Project A119, which we'll probably come back to, where they were going to blow up the moon. Russia and the United States both talked about plans to allegedly launch nuclear bombs up at the moon, or even drill into the moon and put bombs into the moon and blow it up, which I still believe they're trying to do. And they are probably going to do that with this new Artemis mission that they're working on with Orion, that has the same thing as Project Orion, that uses nuclear bombs to like launch rockets out into space or whatever. So today we're going to be talking about military bases on the moon and how they, in earlier times, they wanted to put military bases onto the moon. Yep. So let's check this out. Let's go over the some information about it together. It's called Project Horizon. And that's interesting too, because there was a movie called Event Horizon, which was also about space and black holes and whatnot. Project Horizon was a 1959 study. Now, let me back up. Remember, NASA was invented officially in 1958, where it used to be called the NACA, N-A-C-A, also can pronounced with the G, Naga, like Naga, right? Like the serpentine gods. 1 year later, in 1959, Project Horizon was created to study and determine the feasibility of constructing a scientific/military base on the moon. At a time when the U.S. Department of the Army, Department of the Navy, and the Air Force had total responsibility for U.S. space program plans, on June 8, 1959, a group at the Army Ballistic Missile Agency produced for the Army a report that was titled Project Horizon, a U.S. Army study for the establishment of Lunar Military Outpost. A lunar military outpost. This is really interesting. Like, I think that maybe it goes over people's heads that they're using rockets, which are weapons. You know what I mean? Like we use rockets to shoot them at our enemies on the ground in the military. The same rockets they're using, and I'm not exaggerating, they literally used ICBMs as the first lunar rockets to like get people up into low Earth orbit and even to the moon. They were allegedly repurposed intercontinental ballistic missiles, which typically have nuclear bombs tipped at the top of them. By the way, if I refer to nuclear bombs, okay, and you're not, a big fan of the concept of nukes and you're waving your nukes are fake flag in my face in the comment section all the time, just simply replace the word nuclear bomb with very large bomb, okay? That's not the point. This is not a video. None of these are going to be videos about whether or not nukes are real. They are about they're shooting rockets up towards the firmament. That's the point that I'm trying to make here, okay? So take your little no nukes flag or whatever. Space is fake, nukes are fake, everything's fake. and just hold on to it until I make an episode about that. Then you can just go wild. All right, that'd be awesome. All right, next up. On June 8th, 1959, a group at the Army Ballistic Missile Agency produced for the Army a report titled Project Horizon, a U.S. Army study for the establishment of a lunar military outpost. The project proposal states requirements such as, quote, the lunar outpost is required to develop and protect potential United States interests on the moon, to develop techniques in moon-based surveillance of the Earth and space, in communications relay, and in operations on the surface of the moon, to serve as a base for exploration of the moon, for further explorations into space, and for military operations on the moon if required, and to support scientific investigations on the moon. What is this whole military? What does the military have to do with the moon? Especially back in 1950s. Nobody has gone to the moon. They were barely even getting into quote unquote space. So what's this interest? Did you know that the first military rocket, the kind that explode that they launch, onto other countries to blow people up, I think it was called the V2. It went into space. They launched this little tiny rocket up into space. And that's where Wernher von Braun comes into play. The permanent outpost was predicted to be required for national security as soon as possible, they said, and to cost about $6 billion. Projected operational date with 12 soldiers was December of 1966. So they were trying to get this moon base established, this military moon base, by 1966. Horizon never progressed past the feasibility stage, being rejected by President Dwight Eisenhower when primary responsibility for America's space program was transferred to the alleged civilian agency, NASA. So they transferred it over to NASA, and NASA was like, oh no, we're not interested in putting a base on the moon. We're just going to try to land on the moon. Isn't that the same thing? Isn't that kind of like you have to land on the moon and then naturally you're going to want to build a base? You're going to build some kind of operations? Or did they just want to play golf? Did they just want to ride around in dune buggies all day long? Space Transportation System. Horizon was estimated to require 147 early Saturn A1 rocket launches to loft spacecraft components for assembly in low Earth orbit at a spent tank space station. I think the early one was called Skylab, I believe. A lunar landing and return vehicle launched on a Saturn A2 would have shuttled up to 16 astronauts at a time to the base and back. This was in lieu of a 12 million pound thrust super booster required for a direct ascent lunar flight, which could not possibly be developed for the time in 1966. Wernher von Braun, head of ABMA, appointed Heinz Hermann Koelle to head the Saturn development project team at Redstone Arsenal. Weapons, arsenal, the moon, bombs. Proposed timeline, 1964. They wanted to do 40 Saturn launches. That's talking about the Saturn style of rocket. January 1965, cargo delivery to the moon would have begun. April 1965, the first crewed landing by 2 soldiers. The built-up and construction phase would continue without interruption until the outpost was ready. November of 1966, the outpost staffed by a task force of 12 soldiers. So they wanted this moon base, this military moon base, to have like a permanent residency of 12 soldiers on this moon base. And this was to be a military base, not some kind of scientific base or a base of operations, kind of like, the International Space Station. This was not going to be any kind of international moon base. This was to strictly be an armed military base. The program would have required a total of 61 Saturn A1 and 88 Saturn A2 launches up to November 1966. During this period, the rockets would transport some 220 tons of useful cargo to the moon. December of 1966 through 1967, the first operational year of the lunar outpost with a total of 64 launches was scheduled. These would result in an additional 120 tons of useful cargo. Now, let's talk about the moon base location itself. Rocket vehicle energy requirements would have limited the location of the base to an area of 20 degrees latitude and longitude on the moon. Within this area, the project selected 3 particular sites: the northern part of the Sinus Astrum near the Eratosthenes crater, southern part of the Sinus Astum near the Sinus Medii, and southwest coast of Mare Imbrium, just north of the Montes Epinius Mountains. Defenses. The base would be defended against Soviet overland attack by manually fired weapons. That means they intended to put weapons on the moon. There's a lot of gray area, really close things that could be interpreted as weapons. I mean, they're shooting rockets up at the firmament. That's really what's happening, okay? Because there is no moon as in a light sky being a rock in the sky, but there is a firmament above us. There is a dome above us, and on that dome there is an apex to it that hangs downward towards us that people saw in the ancient times. I believe that that's what they were trying to land on. I believe that's the place where they're trying to make a base. That's where they're trying to communicate with. That's what they're trying to blow up. Because they want to escape. They want to depressurize the atmosphere for a short amount of time. And if they can do that, that means buoyancy will increase for a short amount of time and things will float when they push the button. So, theoretically, they can know the date and the time that everything's going to float, as has been talked about with Project Anchor recently. So, what are they going to defend the moon base, the United States moon base, against Soviets with? What kind of weapons are they going to have? You would think just guns would be fine. Nope. Unguided Davy Crockett rockets with low yield nuclear warheads attached to them on the moon. This is like some Fallout video game type weapons. These are serious weapons on the moon. Okay, they're not messing around on the moon. Why on earth would you want to have, I don't care, like nuclear warheads existing or not existing, very powerful rockets, bombs, whatever you want to call them, okay, on the moon, as opposed to just guns. You know what I mean? Like with no atmosphere to like slow a bullet down, it's going to be even more powerful. Why do you need to have Davy Crockett rockets with low yield nuclear warheads attached to them? Also, Claymore mines, modified to puncture pressure suits. If you don't know what a claymore is, in the early days of the military, when they went out, hand-to-hand combat or whatever, they would have this bomb, basically, strapped to their chest. And it's famous for saying, this side towards the enemy or whatever. And you, pull the trigger on it and you're going to die, but it's sort of like you can take out the enemy with you, basically. This huge explosion would burst out of your chest. So yeah, Claymore mines on this military moon base. Davy Crockett low-yield nuclear warheads on this military moon base. They were that afraid that the Russians were allegedly going to land on the moon and then, come on over to their side of the moon base, and then they're going to have this moon war up there in the heavens. Can you even imagine that? That doesn't sound logical. That doesn't sound right, especially during a time when people hadn't even gone there yet. Now they're talking about, possible nuclear war against one another on the moon. This sounds like a comic book. This sounds like a made-up story. This sounds like propaganda to me. This sounds like they're trying to, use this whole Cold War idea, which was allegedly this non-violent war against Russia and Russia against the United States during the 1950s era. What is that about? There was no war between Russia and the United States. They're calling it a Cold War? Doesn't that sound weird? Yeah, it's a war where nobody did anything. They just, you know, it was political and they were just like calling each other names and it was a lot of propaganda and stuff. No actual fighting. During a time whenever they just finished World War One, World War Two, Vietnam, like America was known for not playing around. It sounds to me like they were working together under the auspices and, um, cover of being enemies. That's what I think. I don't see that there's any problem between the United States and Russia. I see a bunch of drama that looks more like a WWF or WWE presentation than it does actual war or fighting or anything. And I'm glad, I'm not trying to say that they should go blow each other up, but I'm just saying it seems to me like they're working together and they've got the rest of the world fooled thinking that they're not. The basic building block for the outpost would be cylindrical metal tanks, 10 feet in diameter, 20 feet in length. 2 nuclear reactors. Here's nuclear stuff again on the moon. What is going on? I'll tell you exactly what's going on. They would like to blow up the firmament. That's why it's called the Cold War. The firmament, I believe, is made out of frozen gas, aka ice. So this is a war against the ice dome. That's why they're shooting all these rockets up at the sky. They're not traveling the vast universe. There's no Star Trek or Star Trek. There's no Star Wars. They have us down here imagining that they're out there traveling the universe right now. They're nowhere in space. They're in the Earth's atmosphere. If there is an area up there in the space between the Earth and the dome where things can float, that's where they are. They're not out there beyond looking for other worlds or anything. They're stuck right inside here with us. 2 nuclear reactors would be located in pits for shielding and would provide power for the operation of the preliminary quarters and for the equipment used in the construction of the permanent facility. Empty cargo and propellant containers would be assembled and used for storage of bulk supplies, weapons, and life essentials. 2 types of surface vehicles would be used, one for lifting, digging, and scraping, and another for more extended distance trips needed for hauling, reconnaissance, and rescue. A lightweight parabolic antenna erected near the main quarters would provide communications with Earth. At the conclusion of the construction phase, the original construction camp quarters would be converted to bioscience and physics science laboratories. This is really fast. I feel like they moved real quick from should we blow up the moon with nuclear bombs, as in Project A119, to hey, let's put a military base up there. And they've also talked about how these satellites, alleged satellites, right, that can go up there and help, or these rockets that can take the astronauts up there, can also drop bombs back down onto places like Russia or Japan. These were actual plans that they had. They were trying to put bombs into space, onto the moon, many different times. Let me see what's going on with this von Braun deal. Yeah, Wernher von Braun. He's famous for having on his tombstone a quote from, what was it, Psalm 19:1? Is that what it was? Which is, basically 9/11. Got 9/11 in there, which comes up time and time again. A119, Project A119 blowing up the moon. 9/11, 9/11. Psalms 19:1. I don't know. There's something weird about that. But on his tombstone, Wernher von Braun, right? And this also gets into Project Paperclip and how the United States, although they hated the Germans and the Nazis so much, they went and recruited a bunch of them to come here and to work for us. I mean, this doesn't sound to me like, different countries that are against one another. It sounds to me like it's the same corporation. It's the same company that has a front, like little departments within the department store. And they have you guys tricked and thinking that they're, on different teams or something. They're not. They're working together. Their goal is world domination under the guise of individuality or separate corporations when it's really all one family, you know? But anyways, on von Braun's tombstone, that quote talks about the firmament, talks about the firmament declaring God's handiwork. And that particular word, firmament, is used. And firmament, you can hear by the word firm, solid, right? It implies not gases that leak out into space or whatever, but a structure. There's a structure to the sky. Now let's take a quick look at the top secret government document, shall we? And let's see what's going on there. Project Horizon, where did it go here? Oh, that's my sticker. I'll get rid of that. Bam. I did put those stickers on my website. I updated everything last night on my website. So if you guys want to grab some stickers or some mini posters or whatever, just go to my website and check them out. Or if you want to buy my books, you can do that there too. All right. Now, where do I have that one? I think it is. Unless I got, hold on, this is it right here. Okay, sweet. 1 second. One. Try something here. I believe I got it. Odd. Well, it should be showing up, but maybe I gotta put it in front of that picture. Weird. Let me try something else here. Screen. That's the Von Braun deal. Try this. That's not it. Oh, man. Well, try one more thing. I did want to share this document with you guys. Seemed to be working. Get rid of that one. Or you know what? I'll just stick it over there. Let's see if that works. Didn't work. Would that work? There we go. Sweet. All right, sweet. I did it. All right. Now let's size it so I see here. There we go. That'll work. All right, cool. So Project Horizon, Volume 1, Summary and Supporting Considerations. And here you have the lovely solar system brought to you by the United States Army. You can see it says unclassified after it was stamped secret. That. So it was a secret document. Now it's since been unclassified. I don't believe it. I believe that these things are still, they're just telling you it's what better way to actually make something top secret than to come up with the plans, top secret plans, and then give it to the public and say, yeah, we've decided not to do this. We decided not to go with this anymore. This is old news. Here you go. Here's all of our secret plans we were going to do. And the public's like, oh, yeah, they declassified that. So they're not doing it anymore. And then it kind of loses its importance. And then the public kind of just believes, you know, that they're not going to go along with it any longer. They're not going to pursue these ventures any longer because it's been declassified or whatever. I don't know, man. I don't buy into that personally. All right, let's see what we got going on here. So this is the table of contents. Let's see. Anything interesting going on here? They talk about the outpost, space transportation system, transportation integrations, the launch site. Yeah, launching off of the moon is another interesting problem. Program logistics, research and development, scope of operations. These are all very interesting to read over. Possible precedents, the law of space, space laws. That's interesting. Like, who's going to be in charge of making space law? You know what I mean? Laws of space. That should be like the frontier. That should be the place where anarchy is the rule. I think. I don't know. I'd be like a space pirate. I'd be a space bandit, man. What else? Political implications of having bases on the moons, specific problems, ordinances or ordinance. Ordinance? Ordinance? Like a law? Or is that ordinance like explosives? Engineers, Army Medical Services, Quartermaster, Transportation, Chemicals. What else they got here? Horizon Outpost in late 1965. Talks about the layout, 12-man post, typical lunar suits. So they have special suits there. Earth to Moon transportation schemes. I like how they use the word scheme there. 2-man round trip to the lunar surface, Saturn 1. Stages 1 through 3. Saturn 2. Why do they call these things Saturn and stuff as well, right? Why don't they name them after moon stuff? Like that's like if you're going to Saturn, how dumb would it be that your rocket is named like Lunar Rocket number 4 or whatever? Makes sense. Lunar landing vehicle, equatorial Earth orbit. That's interesting too. Yeah, right before this, they had another project called Gemini. They pronounced Gemini for some reason. Where they had 2 guys who would go up into low Earth orbit, allegedly. And they would try to like dock in space, other vehicles and stuff. They were trying to figure out how to like get the orbits together so they could actually dock there while they're floating around. But there was a movie also called Project Gemini, and I think that was about faking a Martian landing, right? A lot of people told me to check that one out. I haven't checked it out yet, but I might watch it tonight. I've never seen it. Lunar landing vehicle, orbital return vehicle. What else we got here? Personnel, space transportation requirements. Remember when we were doing our omens presentation and there was a company out there right now that is selling reservations to a lunar hotel, first moon hotel. There is nothing up there. You can't even land on it. You know, even if they did land on the moon and it was a rock and that whole story, there's nothing up there. And this company is selling reservations to their lunar hotel that they plan on building. They're selling like tickets in advance for like millions of dollars, and people are buying them. All right, what else we got here? Anything else? Let's check out the pictures. Picture person. Got some pictures up here. Okay, so here's one of the concepts for their base. You can see there's a crescent Earth back there. And we got like a mountain range, a launch pad over here. I'm assuming this is a crater. And then they dig out little complexes on the surface, like walls. I don't understand why though. They would dig into the lunar surface allegedly to like put the base into the moon like that. I think that they dig into the moon or drill into the moon to put bombs in there. That's what I think. I think all this is showing you is that they're trying to drill into the moon to put their bombs and have them all lined up in a circle up there on the firmament and then blow it up. And the firmament and the moon are the same thing. Okay, so if you're new to my channel, allow me to explain quickly. The light passes through the firmament and creates a projection of a portion of it into our sky. So we have 2 moons. We have one which is a light in the sky that we see, and we have the portion of the firmament, the lens, which that light passes through, which is the origin of the image that we see that we call the moon. So there's the actual portion of a firmament that I call the apex dome. That's the actual moon. And it's connected to the firmament, which is connected to the Earth, which means the Earth is connected to the moon. Here it is again, little underground tunnels on the moon. Cross-section of typical outpost compartments. Airlock and living quarters. They got Cabinet, food cabinet, personal storage, beds, air conditioning. Nice. Gotta have air conditioning, I guess. What is it, like negative 200 degrees on the moon or something? I guess on the nighttime side. I'm assuming this would all be done on the dark side of the moon. I don't know. But that's where they tend to do everything. They never want to do it in the light because then their deeds would be exposed, right? They always want to work in the dark, all their actions in the dark. I think that's hilarious. What else? We got any more pictures here? I think there's a few pictures here. Look, we got astronaut on ice skates. Why would they need ice skates? Is this serious? They have an antenna on his head. Reminds me of like early Martian drawings of Martians and stuff where they have little antenna coming out of the Martian's head. Hold on, let's just check this out. What we got here for this early astronaut? He has antennas, a radiator on his head, got some kind of backpack, extra receptacles, and then he has ice skates. You know? Like, the firmament is made out of ice, dude. This is the Cold War era that we're talking about. They got ice skates on this astronaut here, and that's not even explained. What's going on? Dude, look at this. Astronauts with ice skates. The moon is the firmament. Firmament is made out of ice. They want to blow up and crack open the dome. They want to shoot the moon. Look at this typical lunar suit. Amazing. Yeah. What else we got? Let's see, we got their path. They got to spin around it. Right. You would think because the Earth's already spinning 1,000 miles an hour, they could just shoot up because it would already fling them. But no, they got to like spin around and go extra fast or whatever. I don't believe in all that concept of space, though. Manned round trip to lunar surface. This is all their propellant. Payload. Payload is another way of saying explosives, too. All this fuel it would require to actually go 200,000 miles away would not fit in any of the rockets that you see. That's my understanding. Not in any of them. Let's see, Saturn. Oh, by the way, I think the reason that they call it Saturn is because that apex dome that is hanging down from the firmament, I believe that was ancient Saturn. So it was lit up from time to time throughout antiquity. And when people saw it, they thought it was, this massive god in the sky, this sky god. It went by many names, but one of them was Saturn. And it had a ring. It had a crescent to it as it was illuminated from below. And so people would see this ring of light, crescent, I should say, of light underneath, which was always the upside down moon. All right. That moon, when it's upside down like that, that's the apex dome. Almost always. But if it's at the side, or if it's like this way or something, that's the regular moon during a crescent phase. But that upside down bowl moon, you never see that. I never see that in the sky, some upside down weird looking moon. That's the apex dome in antiquity. It's the horns of the bull god that was worshipped in those regions. It's also Saturn, or Kronos, the horned one, right? That's what that was. And that's why they call these rockets. They name their rockets after all of this. They're telling you what they're doing. They're really not that good at hiding it. It's just that people are easily fooled. It's really easy to fool people. You don't have to be a good liar. You don't have to be good at deception and stuff. This is the lunar landing vehicle, I guess. The orbital return vehicle. What else we got here? This one says Earth Complex, Lunar Com links, relay stations. Okay. Bullets out in space. Here is their plan for the area. I guess they'll ice skate from this radio tower over here off to the rockets and bombs and stuff after their bombs on the moon. Here's their launch site. Oh, here's another interesting fun factoid, right? These early launch sites, probably the modern ones too, but they have little escape hatches at the bottom where the astronauts can jump in and slide down on an on a basically a water slide that takes them into an underground secret area directly underneath the launch site. So if an astronaut really wanted to not be on the rocket and they would launch it anyway, they could easily just go jump down this little chute into this underground compartment. It's called the rubber room. I have this name for it. Another interesting thing is, did you know that on all of these rocket launches to the moon, and all of them actually that go up there, they have self-destruct. They have a self-destruct button that is pressed from the Earth. So the astronauts might be up there, and if the people down below on the Earth feel there's any problem, or they have any reason or incentive to just blow up their moon mission rocket, they just press the self-destruct button. And they claim that it's there just in case the rocket, goes off towards some city or something, that they're going to kill their astronauts and sacrifice them for the greater good. You believe that? There is a self-destruct button. That makes me think about all kinds of other stories about rockets blowing up and stuff. But they can just press a button from Houston or wherever and blow up the rocket up there. There is no eject pods or anything like that, at least not when you're in the first stage or whatever. Oh, and then I wanted to mention a couple other things too. What is this? Cross-section through the main facility. I guess this would be one of the lunar facilities underground. That's what it would look like. You ever see those space stations on movies and stuff, and they're like initiating gravity, and it's like a ring-shaped space station, and they just make it start spinning? That's how gravity works. Because you're thinking of centrifugal force. Centrifugal? Is it centrifugal or centripetal? One of those forces where you spin something and stick to the outside, right? That doesn't work in space, in floating and high buoyancy, okay? The object might spin around you, but you're just going to stay floating as the object spins around you. You're not going to stick to the wall all of a sudden in space. This is their flight simulator they have. Interesting that it's on these mesas. It does look like a giant tree trunk in this. Let's see, anything else? What else we got here? I like looking at all these pictures. Might be all the pictures that they have. As you can see, it's very detailed, right? So detailed, and lots of money was put into this, lots of time and effort, and you think they just got rid of it? Is that it? We just are going to believe that? They just declassified it, gave up on it, right? After who knows how many people worked on this, planned for it, took money from the United States people to make things like this. Russia too. Russia has their version of this too, right? They were both, competition with each other or whatever. And then allegedly they all came together, made peace. They made space peace and they made Antarctica peace. They can't make terrestrial peace on Earth. They can't make actual earthly peace, but they can decide to be peaceful with one another in the remote wilderness, inaccessible places of our world, the dome, the outer ring. But when it comes to anything else, they're going to go to war. They're going to land grab. They're going to plant their flags and stuff, right? Doesn't that sound kind of fishy? That sounds kind of fishy to me. Anyways, that's Project Horizon and their plans to build a military base on the moon. But next time, we're going to cover some more strange and unusual military projects. And if you want to show some support, you can check out my Patreon, patreon.com/JayDreamerZ. Or if you want more information about the weird things I talk about and write about, you can visit my website, JayDreamerZ.com. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.